Okay, so for part one, you saw there we pretty much assembled the coffee table. That obviously includes milling up all the lumber. We didn't permanently install the top yet. We're going to do that in this video with the end table. We're going to do that all together, and then we're going to finish them. So we did partially mill up the end table in the first video. So not all the lumber, but some of the lumber has been milled up, especially a lot of it's been jointed and planed. So we are going to clean these up, get the final dimensions for the end table. We're just going to be making one end table here. It's going to be dimensions of 18 by 20 by 24. So it's going to be 18 inches wide, 20 inches deep, and 24 inches high. These are going to a beach house. So they're going to be finished with some whitewash. Not whitewash, but a simply white stain. That's what we're going to do this video. So right here, we're just going to mill everything up. We're going to run a chamfer on all the frame pieces, including the legs. We're going to do all four sides on this table to make it consistent with the coffee table. We also put the little fancy center groove in there too, just to give a little extra touch to it, a little fanciness. So here, like I said, we're just going to get this wood milled up and ready to go. Okay, so here I'd like to lay everything out, just to get a visual of what the table's going to look like, and how we're going to join it. We're going to use little spacers here for our bottom stretchers and aprons. That way we know we have consistent height off the legs. And we're going to be using for the top and the bottom, we're going to be using little spacers here, as you can see. And these will set up our reveal. And we'll also use them with our calipers to get our final thickness when we start putting our mortises into the legs. So that way we ensure we have our reveal. So we're just going to lay everything out here, make sure we like the way it looks. And this also will help us gauge our tenons that we're going to be cutting, our mortises, I'm sorry, we're going to be cutting in. So we're going to use our center line here. This is a nice fancy feature for me, but also I use it, this is the center of this stretcher and apron, and I use this for marking where we're going to be putting our mortise here. 22 I don't have to use a pencil, I know that's the center. And we're going to use a caliper here to get the thickness of our stretchers and aprons, which are about 20 millimeters. So we're going to set our height here about 10, 11 millimeters. That way we know we're going to hit put the mortise in the center of, from top to bottom and also side to side in our stretchers and aprons here. As you can see here, I'm using that little center line that we used the table saw for to cut that little groove in it as our center line for on our plate for our mortise here, as you see here. So it makes it a little easier. I don't have to mark it with pencils. We will mark the legs with pencil in a couple minutes here, just to have our layout. And there's a little example. So now we're going to lay out everything officially we're going to do a dry fit first, obviously. But right now we're just going to lay out our legs here where we're going to be putting our mortises. We also have to account for our reveal here. So we're going to use a caliper. We're going to add an extra millimeter or two from the bottom of the legs. So that way we can assure we have our reveal still. you can see here, we're going to use our little combination square here, and this is going to be the same depth as our spacer that we used earlier. This will be the bottom of our apron and stretchers. So then we're going to use our bigger combination square to find our center for the mortise. Here, as you can see, we're just going to lay one out, and then we're going to grab our bigger combination square here, and then we're going to set that depth to there. So that way everything's consistent. We don't have to guess or take on the math out of it. We're just going to be able to use our tools to give us our consistent layout here. As you can see with the domino, we're going to set our width a little wider with this. We're also going to set our depth a little lower, since we had a higher depth on the plunge for the stretchers and aprons. Since these legs are pretty thin, I don't want to take a chance of running into these mortises into each other, so we're going to set the depth a little lower, but we're also going to set the width a little bigger. That way we have some wiggle room to fit these in and move them around. With the glue and the Zen grain, this should is plenty enough of a strong joint here. So here we're just going to start putting our mortises in all of our legs here, and we're going to do a little dry fit before we do any glue up. Okay, so when we take this table out of clamps, we're going to do the same thing we did with the coffee table. We're going to sand it down. We're going to work our grits. The detail sander comes in handy here with some of these tight crevices. We're going to do a little more of that. We're also going to run a chamfer on the bottom of the feet just to prevent any tear out, especially when I'm working on these tables and bringing them in and out of the shop and dragging them across work surfaces. I tend to sometimes get tear out. So here we're going to put the bottom cleats in to hold the bottom slats we're going to put in later. Really just kind of finishing up, and we're going to cut our slats now to the final width. Okay, so we'd like to mill up our tops. We don't want any seams when we do our lamination here. And also I like to do this little trick here, to frown upside down and to smile. Try to alternate the grain patterns as I do my lamination. So we're going to use biscuits and glue for this top. It's just one top. It's 20 inches in depth and 18 inches wide, so it's not a huge top. We're just going to run some biscuits, size 20 biscuits, and some glue. So here we're going to put some very light coating of white stain on these tables. It's not something I particularly like to do with hardwoods, but white oak sometimes I don't mind. So since when you put like some kind of finish on, whether it be Osmo, even Rubio, a varnish, it can sometimes yellow or amber the white oak, and I've had that happen a lot to me. So we're going to put a little white stain on this, and it's more going to be for a beach environment. So it's going to be a little whitewash looking, kind of driftwood. So that's what we're doing here. We're just going to run this white oak. White oak, we're going to put some white stain on it, but very lightly, and to wipe off the excess here. So we're doing the tops, the slats. We're going to do the frames. It's all going to be one color for both tables. As you see here, we're going to use the biscuit joiner while we have it out. We're going to be putting little grooves in the top. You can also use a table saw for this, or a router if you have like a slot bit. I like to use the biscuit joiner. Have it set at the perfect height from the top. And I just run these Z-clips right in here to mount the tabletops for both tops. So you can see here we're going to be using brad nails to fasten these slats. We're also going to be using countersink screws on the bottom, just very small trim head screws, about 1 inch. I think these are 1¼ inch since the slats are a little thicker. And this is white oak, so I don't want to go too thin. So that's how we're going to mount the slats. And now we're on to the last table here. We're just going to mount the top, same way with the Z-clips. We're just going to be using the slats we cut out earlier with the biscuit joiner, and then we're just going to countersink with the self-centered drill bit, and then we're just going to use very light pressure impact driver, and then we'll finally tighten, hand tighten with the regular Phillips head screwdriver, just to make sure we don't over tighten or have any kind of chip out or tear out. Okay, so for the finish, we're going to be using general finish. The arming seal, we're going to be using a semi-gloss. I'm sorry, we're going to be using a satin for this. We didn't want to go too sheeny with this. We're going to be using a satin varnish for this, and this will hopefully, with the white stain, will hopefully prevent it from yellowing or giving an amber tint for this white oak. So these came out pretty nice. I liked them. I kind of wish we didn't stain them. I like the natural white oak look. It had a nice grain pattern, but the white oak or the white stain definitely keeps them from, like I said, just discoloring with finish. So this is it, pretty much done. If you have any questions, let me know. This was a fun build. These, like I said, are going into a beach environment. And thanks for watching.